anything specific that you want to talk about when we go
hello.
live?
I just accidentally put us live, so hi everybody.
All right. Well.
Oh, hey, all right.
Hey guys.
I went to
What's up?
fucking
Nice.
fix something. I realized I did something wrong and I forgot we were on the starting soon screen. Hello everybody. Hello.
Whoa.
Oh, we're a mess. Hi everybody. How are we doing? It's okay.
Special guest today.
Special.
Yeah, of course. Come on.
Hmm.
Here you go. Actually, you've been on several times. It's just been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. Huh? Well, you guys weren't
Yeah.
streaming for a while.
Yeah, we stopped. We decided that we hated it, and then we remembered that we liked it, and so we started again. It's sort of a love-hate thing.
What's there to hate about it?
Sometimes we just get too extra about stuff, and
Mhm.
last time we were doing it, we were our times were really bad. We were doing also 3 days in a row, so we would do Monday, or we would do Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and we would try and do 3 hours every time. And now we're we're Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so there's a little bit extra time, and we only do 2 hours. And so it's a little bit less stressful, and also we're just a little more willing to not stream on a day if we don't feel like it.
Yeah. That probably helps.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we
What about
used
you?
to
Has
take
your
it extremely
streaming
seriously.
gone?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are like workaholics, right?
I've heard that before.
What were you asking? Something?
Oh, I said, how's your streaming been? Do you still stream?
Yeah, I stream pretty regularly. So yeah, when something comes up and I can't make it or whatever, then I just put it off. It's not super serious.
Yeah, we also would do we have pretty regular schedules, working Monday through Friday during the week, starting at 5 a.m. usually, although not as much anymore. But starting at 5 a.m. usually, and then we would do, for some reason, we would be streaming at our Thursday stream. So it's late in the week, we're already tired. We would start that at 5 p.m. So we wake up, start work at 5 a.m., then start streaming at 5 p.m. for 3 hours. And that was just a lot.
Yeah, I imagine.
Now, one thing that's noteworthy about all the streams that you've been on in the past is we tend to talk about really interesting subjects, or I guess topical would be the right word, right? I remember a couple years ago having you on, and we spent the whole stream talking about how AI art is coming if it wasn't here already. And then
Yeah.
since then, obviously, a lot has happened. We still get asked about it quite a lot.
Basically
and,
every stream.
Yeah, we talk about it sometimes, but we don't want to just repeat ourselves a lot. So we've always told people that we would just save it until you're on again, and then we talk a lot about AI art.
Oh, fuck! All right, yeah, I could talk about AI if you want.
So I guess just in general, how do you feel about it now that it's definitely here? A lot of what we talked about last time was just it's coming, it's gonna be here. And then it sort of really came all at once.
Yeah. Well, I think my primary thing when I see AI art is the lack of respect when it comes to it.
Right.
And in terms of users, because I feel that AI art in general is, I mean, there's many things wrong with it that annoy me. But overall, I'd be a lot more okay with it if the people using it were more self-aware, I suppose.
For example.
I mean, on the extreme side of things, there's all the people who are oh yeah, they're kind of reveling in the idea that people will be out of job, or uh, like talking as if the future is already here.
Mm.
Like AI is supposedly better, and it's so original and things like that. But then, essentially, what I'm seeing is like new art students, but they have this magic black box that gives them the illusion of hyper competency. Because in the past, whenever a new person would pick up art, you know, they might not be fully aware of the problems or the lack of abilities that they have. It's like a lack of self awareness, but that's usually tempered because they actually can't draw that well. So like reality hits them harder or faster. But when people new to creativity and things like that, or like expressing themselves, get a hold of AI, I don't fully trust that they understand the creative process, and they just like think that they're doing more than they actually are.
Yeah, I definitely. You see a lot of that, and like, I mean, I think that there are, like with anything, there are extremes. You see some people that are like, oh yeah, artists are. I don't ever have to commission an artist again, and
Mhm.
whatever. But I think that also there's people that are extreme in the other way that like think it's the devil and
Yeah.
don't like because there actually are very practical applications for it, and I actually have talked about this on stream before, where somebody made a Laura of my art style, and it was actually kind of cool to like put it into stable diffusion and play with it a little bit
Mhm.
and sort of see what comes out of it, because it's not like I wouldn't use it to do my work for me, because what's the point in doing that, you know what I mean? um, but it was kind of cool to see like some things that it would do that were different than me, and some of the stuff I would be like, oh, I actually like how it did this. I like how it shaded the hair here with like a color I wouldn't have thought to do. And
Mhm.
so there are a lot of I think applications like that in general will be helpful for artists. But some of the artists on the extreme side, actually a lot of artists on the
Yeah.
extreme side against that, are like, no, never, nothing ever to do with it. And it's like, it's
Yeah.
here, like you can't make it go away.
I do think that there is um, it's like an all or nothing mentality.
Yeah, that's with
That
everything, right?
is very pervasive. Yeah, I mean, I understand because a lot of the issues are on like ethical sides of things rather than the actual usage of the technology. I think that if those things were cleared up, uh, usage might be a bit more okay. Though a lot of it is like emotionally driven, so I can understand how it got here. Um, but yeah, I mean, purely from like without talking about the ethical side of things, about like scraping or like copyright, it does have some potential like actual application. Uh, Certainly,
Have
like
you messed
like if
around with it any?
I've messed around with Midjourney and Stable Diffusion just to like understand what I'm talking about. Um, it's all right. I mean, I feel maybe because I am so practiced in like ideation, it doesn't help too much. It's more for, like whenever I see a novel thing that it accidentally does, that I could see it being possibly useful.
Like what?
Um, it's hard to say. Like in my time using it, it wasn't very useful for me. But sometimes I'll see something that someone posts that's AI, and it'll be like, oh yeah, that's an interesting way that they did the coloring or things like that. Usually because it's more blended than usual. Let
Right.
me see. I think there was one that was people were posting about recently. Uh, Yeah,
Well, I think
someone.
where it is right now is
Mhm.
it's hard, like especially for artists. Like I had the same thing. I started to use it and I was like, there's not really much practical application for this, just because like it would actually, because the thing about it, if you've not messed with it too much, is that people don't understand. It's like it's not like you just immediately get the image you want. You have to kind of finagle it, and it's a
Yeah,
lot of prompting and stuff like that. So for
yeah,
artists, it's like, well, I could probably draw this faster than I could figure out how to prompt what I want. You know?
yeah. I mean, I do see that as a standard retort. Is artists are like, oh, you just type in some words and you just get the picture you want. It's like, well, maybe if you're lucky, but from what I understand, you have to like spend a good amount of time editing things and re-rolling it. And you could say that it's
Yeah.
just like, oh, yeah, you're just like uh just re-rolling the gotcha until you get what you want, and that's not seen as a skillful behavior. Which, again, I understand, but it's not like it's a a free give me.
At least yet.
Yeah, at least yeah, it could get closer and closer. But from what I've seen, like I don't understand unless we get like direct neural link or something like that. I don't see it being able to overcome the biases of language. Because like with how the AI works right now, it just takes weights of certain words, whatever those are, and essentially what you're doing when you use AI is you're kind of like trying to discover what those weights are. Because we think we know what like a red background is, or like uh whatever the fuck prompt someone wants to use. I've seen some of the prompts; they look pretty asinine to me. Um,
For sure.
but like it's language. There's no inherent like scientific value applied to any of that. It's all subjective. Uh, but yeah, so without really having a like objective truth to what the language means, uh, I don't ever see it being able to perfectly hone in on what our intentions are without like inserting its own uh, interpretation.
Yeah. I think another thing too,
Hmm.
talking about like practical applications. I
Hmm.
could see it eventually leading to some very interesting uh, art instruction or critiques.
Hmm.
Um, like I think the potential for a learning program with art where you can just like put in your drawings and sort of like have it analyze them and give feedback or critiques or things like that. Like eventually, I think something like that will pop up and it will be awesome for artists.
Hmm. How's
I don't
that?
know if you've have thought about that much.
Well, what kind of instruction do you think it would excel at?
Well, I think eventually, and that's always the key word with AI, right? Or anything with technology is eventually,
Hmm.
because if you say that enough, it's like, well, eventually anything. But like,
Hmm.
um, already you can go in and put something into like Stable Diffusion, and you can in paint on it, and you can say like, oh, like that's what a lot of AI generation is, right? It's like you generate an
Yeah,
image, you say, oh, the hands suck, and you go in
yeah,
and you
yeah,
select the hands, and you just have it regenerate the hands. You can already do this in Photoshop. Actually, they've released a
yeah, yeah,
tool for that.
yeah,
But so like it can already fix things in a way, and we already have the tools for AI that can figure out what it's looking at and put it into words. I mean, it's a different tool. Like Stable Diffusion can't do that, right?
yeah,
But those tools exist. Like ChatGPT has a plugin where you can just hey, look at this image of a dinner and give me
yeah,
the
yeah.
recipe on how to cook this dinner. So,
Hmm.
we're going to see these tools combine. And so I think that you will be able to say like if you have a sketch or like this drawing that I have right here, like be like, oh, look at this thing that I've drawn. What could I do to make this look better? Or I don't like how I drew the wings of this wind racer.
Hmm.
I could see a tool where it goes in and gives you several different options on how it could do that, and at the same time, and this is the key for any kind of instruction, explain why it would make those changes.
Hmm.
Um, and I could see that being super helpful.
I feel like that last part is going to be the biggest hurdle, because from what I understand, all of these language models don't have any. Uh, they don't actually have any like logic or reasoning as to why they do anything that they do.
Yeah, it's well, it's all predictive, right? Like it's all like I think I've been trained on, billions of pieces of text. So I know that like typically in a sentence, like it's just predicting the next word that comes next. But
Yeah,
it can be pretty accurate.
it can, but again, it's not because it understands why it does what it does. It just
Right.
knows that after fucking looking at a billion images, um, like this is the most quote unquote most correct.
And yeah, exactly. And so I don't think it's much of a leap to say that from that it will be able to predict like what changes. Like I said, if you put this image and say, "Oh, I want to draw the hands differently," being able to predict essentially like an art course. I mean, because you can already sort of do that, right? Like if you go to ChatGPT, like teach me or make a course for me on how to improve at drawing hands, and it will lay out like a whole curriculum, essentially.
Yeah, I can see that it could do something like that, but I feel that it would be good for like first or maybe even second drafts. But it won't be able to spot its own biases without. So like currently the technology has no way for it to um, like evaluate the success of its own work.
Right.
It still needs a human to be like, oh yeah, okay, this is what I made, which one do you like? And then we have to like go in and say like that's the good one, or this is not good, whatever. The technology can't do that yet. um, if we do get to a point where it can do that, then I'll be like super scared, because we've essentially created general intelligence. Yeah, are you familiar with the difference between narrow and general?
I don't.
Maybe,
Uh,
but you
so
maybe explain it anyways.
currently what we have right now is narrow artificial intelligence. It's extremely
Oh,
good
right, right, right. Yeah.
at like one thing, or maybe like two things or something at most. But what we're trying to work towards, or at least what some people are trying to work towards, is artificial general intelligence, which is much closer to what we envision AI to be, which is essentially just like a thinking person in robot form. It can do all the things. It can evaluate its own successes. It can um, make decisions on how to proceed. Um, and currently, we're like nowhere near being able to do it, because it's remarkably complex and difficult. Um, so the capabilities of our current AI, which is the large language models and the machine learning, um, we've essentially brute forced our way into intelligence, because the like if you took an infant baby, like a human baby, and it learns about the world over the course of like a few years, um, it does it remarkably efficiently and quickly, and it doesn't need, like, of course there's a lot of input going in over those years. I'm not trying to say that uh, humans can learn with nothing, but it's comparatively much less information than what the large language models need to even do a sliver of what humans do. Um, so yeah, like going back to your point, if we get to a point where the AI can create uh, like an art course based off of just like you prompting it to do it, there are many steps involved there that we're nowhere near. Um, and again, if we do achieve those, I'll be incredibly scared, because we're getting into actual artificial life forms.
Real quick,
But
Lee315 asks, "Hey, question as an artist myself, why do you use the pencil tool instead of the brush? Is there a difference?" It's just so when I am using the paint bucket to like color stuff, it doesn't leave the space in between the lines because it's all like pixel perfect. I don't know. It's either aliasing or anti-aliasing,
This
and
is
I
the
can't
part of the
remember which
stream
one.
where Scott again does not remember which it is.
Yeah, no, but see, with this, you can just like paint bucket in what you want, and it very few
We
little
at one point
errors
had someone
like
in
that.
chat make up a saying for him to remember, and he actually remembered it for quite a while. But then we stopped streaming, and during that time, he forgot.
Yeah, it's gone now.
Congratulations.
But sorry, I just wanted to answer that real quick.
Yeah, no problem.
Also, in response to what you said, Scott, about the class, Barrett Smith said, then why not just take an art class or ask someone for advice? So I guess why would you, or what do you think the value is in AI? Not regarding how long it would take to get there, but just in general with that idea you were bringing up of learning from it, that over a real person.
Well, it's two things, right? And a lot of these AI tools come down to two things. One, and probably the biggest one is, and the thing that makes it potentially useful for everybody is personalization. Like the idea that it can know your own habits and know your own things makes it a lot better than just a general like art course you would take online, in theory. Once we get to that point, the other part is just availability. Not everybody can afford to take art courses, and not everybody knows artists' friends that would be willing to take a look at stuff for them. And I think that it really, those are the two biggest selling points for this if it ever does become a reality.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely hear the talks about personalization and like economic viability, which I understand. Art is a luxury, and not everyone can afford it, especially the learning part. But that kind of delves into more of a societal economic situation rather than specifically the effects of AI.
Well, that's
Like,
where
if
it
we
gets
could-
hard, though, right? Is that like AI, it has the potential to impact like everything, every part of our whole life. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
economic, societal, all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's why it gets so complicated. Usually, I try to keep the conversation to like the narrow point of how it affects artists specifically. But if we want to like branch out into the economic impact of it, it's wildly complicated. At the very basics of it, it's just kind of like currently we live under capitalism, which is essentially the sale and trade of labor. And if you make labor worthless, it destroys our system. It's like how do you make money in this world? You either get a job or you become the person who gives people jobs. So you're either an employee or a boss. And then if suddenly there's this machine that comes out where it can do every job for free, or at least like close to nothing, like where do people make their money?
Where in your mind does it differ from the same conversation, but with industrialization a long time ago?
It doesn't. I
Right.
think
Yeah.
that
Exactly.
I think from an economic standpoint, it doesn't. The primary difference would be like magnitude. So like at a base level, we can argue in circles about how it's the same or it's not the same or whatever. To me, it doesn't matter if it's the same or it's not the same. It's about the ultimate impact that it has, which is going to be far wider because like industrialization and mechanization automated away manual labor. Well, I don't say automated away, but it vastly increased our productivity from a like production standpoint, but it didn't solve the intellectual side of things. Like running the business or networking or yada yada. But theoretically, that's what AI is going to do. It's going to automate away the like thinking part of work. um, which I think is much more applicable across the board in terms of jobs. There's a lot more jobs right now that are cerebral rather than manual. And if anything, what might end up happening is it flips the script again. So now everybody has to go get a manual job instead of having a white collar job.
Right, and I think actually you're hitting on what the you were exactly right. Like the difference is that this targets typically white collar jobs, which were always thought to be more like safe. You always heard like people talking about like robots replacing fast food workers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And now actually we're coming up on the brink of the opposite. There's already there was a famous example of like a company using an AI as like its CEO, and actually it outperformed market expectations. I think
Yeah.
that was in China, and it's like so like you're already seeing stuff like that's coming, and I guess what is potentially scary about it is that we've already had with industrialization, that surge of blue collar jobs, um, just like go away. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's not nearly as many physical jobs, so now we're losing, as you said, most of the jobs now are the other way around. So now we're losing most of them. So it's sort of like what's going to be left at the end of all this.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that at the end of it, I'm not too concerned because I think that all of the posturing that we have about like economics and creativity and stuff like that is um, it's contingent on the idea that humans are static, which they're not. So I think that as time changes and like the status quo shifts and everything is upended, people will adapt to the new normal essentially, and what we value will radically shift. Um, like currently, it's terrible for people that have like expectations or like they rely on certain things for a living or things like that. Um, but when we come out on the other end of things, like if okay, just for simplicity's sake, if we're talking just about AI art, if suddenly the supply of art is like astronomically high because everybody has their own model and they're all pumping out 50 pictures a day, I think that those pictures are going to be worthless. Like they're not going to be creatively stimulating, and they're going to be a dime a dozen from like a dollar standpoint, or even cheaper than a dime a dozen. So like what role is it really fulfilling from a societal standpoint other than uh, personal satisfaction from a creativity standpoint? Um, so we've just like essentially we've created a machine to make noise. Like it's not really contributing at all.
Well, I think where it's going to be interesting is how the interplay between uh, how it's going to, because in terms of like just artists, like people like you and me that just like make art and people look at it, and that's the whole thing. I think people are always going to, in that realm, that space, I think they're always going to be seeking stuff made by humans, and we already see that a little bit. People are like, oh, this is AI generated.
Yeah.
And like people are always going to specifically be looking for things that were made by a human. But I think where it gets different, where it becomes a harder question, is industry stuff, like animators on movies. I think a reasonable comparison is 2D animation,
Sure.
like hand drawn 2D animation, dying. I mean, it's not, you know what I mean? Like it compared to where it was a long time ago, not the same thing. And I think this is a similar situation. Um,
Mhm.
where like now we're going to be seeing, and actually this has already come up with the writer's strike.
Yeah, yeah,
One of their big things that they wanted originally was protection against like AI writers,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and they couldn't get it. They had to drop that basically immediately. They were like, okay, we're not going to win that fight. That was one of
yeah.
the first things that they dropped. So I
Yeah,
think industry stuff is where it's going to get really, really interesting.
I I can see it. I think that the primary issue with AI is that people have the presumption that it's not authentic work. And I think when it comes to artistry or like creative works, there are people that consume it blindly and just kind of like enjoy the explosions or whatever. And then there's other people that see creative work as like a form of communication between people. Um, I would say I'm more of the latter. Because like when I see a piece of artwork, there's an underlying assumption that this was somebody's thoughts. These are somebody's like ideas and creativities and passions and stuff like that. So when I consume their artwork, I'm not just seeing a pretty picture. I'm seeing, oh, this is like someone's aspirations or someone's like this made someone happy to make. And that's a form of communication to me. But when I see it's something like that and then I find out that it was made by AI, all those assumptions go under question and I'm not necessarily certain if this is that communication that I was looking for. So it kind of undermines the communication that I have come to expect from artwork, um, which generally just sours me on the whole process. So if we move towards a situation where industry relies more heavily on I feel like like corporate art styles, right?
Mhm.
Like how generally people are just like, ugh, this fucking corporate art style is soulless. It doesn't really do anything. We just ignore it.
Right.
I feel like if industry work relies too heavily on AI more and more, it'll just like drown people out in a sea of what people uh, come to consider as like soulless work. Um, and of
Then
course, I
where
think there's a balance there, but it's with the rate of generation, I'm not confident that industry will hold back for quality work. I think they will push out mediocre work.
Oh, of course, of course. But then, so in response to what you said, then where is the line? Because the line has to be somewhere, right? Like when you're describing that, like what you're saying makes sense. But so, like you say, it's a form of communication. Take somebody like Bryce, right? Say I didn't exist. He writes something. He writes a script. Uses AI to generate a movie based on the script, but it's still
Mhm.
his script. He wrote it all. He's the one who, it's communicating his idea, just in this different form.
Mhm.
Obviously, a lot of the legwork was done by AI, but it's still, I mean, so like, is the line before that? Is the line after that? Where does it become too much? Because
I
I
think
think we already, go
yeah.
ahead.
No, you're in
Well, I was
the
going to say, I think we've already seen, there was a show, I can't remember what it was, that a scene was AI generated in the show.
Mm.
Like, and that was the point, like, it's a show about like computers, and it's a fictional show, but they used like AI to generate a scene. That was like those sort of meta, it's like sort of the point. But like, we're already seeing stuff like that, and I think probably, and really, if you want to get, I guess, technical with it, the
Mhm.
term AI is so vague.
Well, I mean,
Like,
it's in the matter of what we're doing right now, it's incorrect. Like this is machine
right,
learning. This isn't artificial intelligence.
right. And so, like, when people, like, when I, when you apply a filter to a picture, and
Yeah.
like, that's AI.
Yeah.
So, like, the definitions get really scattered and confusing the more you think about it.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I guess to my original question is where is that line? If like if 1/100th of a project was AI generated, obviously I think most people, like the average consumer, they're going to be totally okay with that. If
Mhm.
10% of it, maybe they would be. If 100% of it, so some of them will be. So like, where's that line, or is it just up to each individual person, or eventually will it just not matter and we won't even be able to tell?
It's the same as any other art piece. It's always going to be subjective. There's no objective truth in art. Um, like I can't speak for anyone else, but for me personally, it all comes down to that authenticity part of it. Like I have come to a point where I've calibrated myself to identify authentic versus inauthentic art when it comes to like traditional processes, right? it's not 100%. Like, I'm not God, but I have a pretty good sense about whether or not someone made something because they were interested in doing it versus whether they just wanted to like clout chase, or if they're just doing it for a buck, whatever. Um, but a lot of those assumptions go out the window when I'm looking at AI, because like the difference, or like the distance between somebody who's doing something authentically versus someone who's doing it uh, just to clout chase is completely different now. So whenever I see AI art, I always have to go in with like safe than sorry assumption that this person is doing it for less than uh, good intentions.
It's hard to ever assume it's not just the clout chase with AI, I feel
Yeah,
like. Because I don't,
yeah,
at least for me, from a creative perspective, like if I want to make something, I make it,
mhm,
like myself, So I don't see where the creative fulfillment from using AI to completely make a piece or something, you know what I mean?
mhm.
Comes from. So I have that same sort of feeling too, where whenever I see AI, I have that feeling of like, what is the point of this aside from trying to gain some kind of reputation or do something?
Yeah, and that's why I'm like, from the beginning, we started talking about it, the biggest issue with me is that so many of the people that I see using AI art seem like not self-aware at all. Like, if it came down to it and they were like talking about, oh yeah, here's the benefits of it, or it's not necessarily completely creatively fulfilling, but I find that this aspect of it is useful for me, or things like that. If that dynamic and entered the conversation more, I would be much more okay with AI. But every time I see AI art or AI artists post their work, it feels incredibly vapid, and their language, the way that they talk about it, are like, it's like the crypto bros again. Like, they think that this is the second coming of Christ, and it's going to save everything, and it's like we have this techno utopia on the horizon, and they're so excited for it, and they have zero critical eye for the damages that it could potentially wrought.
From a writing perspective, I will say, because specifically talking about like uses that I've seen, that it does have like, because I don't use, I've not messed around with AI too much, as in like to help me or anything like that, but I have dabbled a little bit. The interesting things I've found with it, and obviously again this is different because it's from a writing perspective, um,
Yeah.
is I've found it's really interesting to give it a script, like be like, I've written this script, and then just be like, make this 2 pages. Like, how would you cut this down and make this a lot shorter? How would you do this and that? Not to like have it do the work, but just to see what it can do, or how like different things, and sort of I guess poke it, be like, this is how I wrote, this is how I want it to be, but like, what are the different ways? Or the really interesting thing that I think this actually has a really cool use, um is having it being like, I've created this character, and just feeding in all this information about this character to the AI, and then just talking with the character, just like having a conversation with ChatGPT, role playing as this character, I think is a really interesting thing, an interesting way to explore, not again to use it as a tool to then further making something yourself with it. I think that's something that's interesting with it, that I think a lot of people we will only ever talk about the negatives. I do think there are some things that are cool from a perspective that way, but again, I guess because I only ever think of it from the perspective of like, I would never use it to make something because I want to make things myself. But I do think it's cool to mess with, to sort of see different routes, or to mess with, I guess, provoking creativity in some sense of the word.
I think that that is a valid use case insofar that the person using it is aware of what creativity is.
Hmm.
And again, that's a subjective statement, but I think what I'm very concerned about is that there are people that are letting the AI make creative decisions that they do not recognize as creative decisions. So when it makes something, they're just like, "Oh yeah, that's exactly what I wanted." I'm not I'm not confident that the people can identify what they wanted in the first place.
Hmm.
They had like a vague idea of what they wanted, and then they typed in the words of what that was, and then the AI spat something out that checked enough boxes, and then they will now take 100% credit for all the creative decisions the AI made.
Especially one of the biggest problems with that is one thing I always talk about when I give people advice when like coming up with ideas and storytelling and stuff is that like your first idea is typically your worst idea. Like one of the first things you're taught is to you kind of like whatever your first idea is the most generic answer. It's the answer that 90% of people will come up with because your brain kind of it tries to fill in a blank. Say you have like a problem in a story, you're like, "Ooh, I don't know what to do here." Your brain goes for the quickest, easiest, put a band-aid on it fix, and typically that fix is drawn from many things that you've seen, tropes, stuff like that. And a lot of times I've noticed if you try and use AI in that way, it does that exact same thing because it's just pulling from things that have already been made.
Well, unless you're doing like a whole bunch of work to like narrow down what it's supposed to do, it's going to give you like the most probable answer, which is just like, you know, the most obvious answer. And yeah, like again, I'm not confident that people who have never really trained their creativity can spot when you're getting generic ass shit.
I guess that goes into another question of it's interesting for us because we've all been doing this like a long time at this point.
Yeah.
So it's like I can look at it and I can be like firmly comfortable, and we all can be firmly comfortable in our own creativity and what we do. But I wonder what it's going to be like coming up. Like you're just starting to learn how to draw or just starting to learn how to write or whatever. And I don't know whether it would be a good thing to try and like somebody mentioned that like CSP has a shader tool in it, and that it's a good way to help you learn, like an AI shading tool. And I don't know anything about this, so I'm talking out my ass a little bit here, but I don't know if I would ever tell someone to do something like that rather than just learn how to like shade, you know what I mean, just learn how to do that, because that's my gut instinct is like I wouldn't be like go use this thing to kind of help fill in your blanks. I'd be like fill in those blanks, like work, and like even if it's worse than whatever that program does.
I think it's a terrible idea to tell a beginner to use an automated tool to do the work for you. Unless, again, with the caveat, if this person is incredibly self-aware and can identify the differences between the automated work and their own personal work, possibly. But yeah, it's a terrible precedent to set to tell somebody who's learning to have something do the work for them. At least in my opinion.
How do you feel, Scott?
Yeah, well, I think it's it goes back to what Otto said about it depends on the person, and like it can be a completely valid learning tool if they're able to take it as such, like if they try and shade it, like like it's like I guess similar to using reference, right? Like you might, like a lot of people don't use reference correctly, and that's where I think a lot of the stuff comes from, where people are like, no, you shouldn't use reference, which is it's just a stupid argument, but like people say it, and like I think a lot of that comes from people being like, oh, you're using reference, just like oh, let me pull in a picture of a hand and just trace it, which even that, I mean that's a different conversation, but like instead of like you can study a lot with a picture, and like the way you do it is actually like you be like, I want to draw a hand, and so you come in here and you draw your hand in this pose, and you're like, oh, what I want to do this better, and then you actually pull up a picture of a hand, and then you compare and be like, use that reference to compare, not just like mindlessly copy down if you want to improve. So you'd look at the reference and say like, this is fucking awful, and then you can actually see what the fix for it would be, and that's something like I would do when I was, and still do when I'm studying. I would like get some reference that I liked, and I would look at it, and then I would put it away, and then I would try and redraw what I saw. And then after I finished trying to redraw it, I would go in and say like, okay, what did I do wrong? What's the differences here? Like, what did I miss? Like, and that way you can sort of spot your own natural biases. that's sort of I don't know how I got off track just talking about reference, but I could see a similar usage of that. Like, if you're actually trying to use it to learn, and I've not used this tool myself, I have no idea if it's even any good. But you go in and you say like, okay, let me try and shade this drawing, and then you do your best, and then you're like, okay, now what would the AI have done? Then you look at it and stuff, and if it's different, say like, okay, why is it different? What is it? What do I like more that it did? What do I like less that it did? Think critically, and honestly, like I said, that same sort of thought process goes for even traditional learning. Like, you have to be willing to think like that, just learning on your own using reference or YouTube videos or whatever,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's the key difference for me is the critical side of things. Even before the advent of AI, when a new artist shows up and they think they're making all these creative decisions, and I look at their work, I'm like, well, maybe you need to work on being a bit more objective about what you're actually contributing to this process. Very rarely will I voice that because it's it can be a bit harsh to tell someone that. But I feel that with the AI, we just have a whole bunch of beginners who are like under the illusion of strong creativity.
So where do you see this being 2 years from now? I mean, one of the last times that we had you on that we spent the whole stream talking about AI already was about 2 years ago, probably at least a year. A lot's changed
I don't remember
since
what I
then.
said.
I don't either. It's been a long time. I'm sure you sounded really smart.
Possibly.
But so where do you see this being 2 years from now? So then we can go back and see how wrong we were.
I see a few possibilities. So there's a possibility that this goes unchecked and it just becomes ubiquitous across the board and we have AI everywhere. Um, if that's the case, then I think we will society will be forced to change its economic system. Like traditionally, what changes an economic system is like societal collapse. Like when there's a revolt of the underclass because it's not working, and arguably that's happening right now in America,
Right.
just to a lesser degree, or maybe we're just at the beginning of it, or it's tempered by the fact that we have like sophisticated military equipment that's much harder to overcome. But yeah, so if things just go completely unchecked, I think we'll have to dabble with like more seriously things like universal basic income or some sort of wealth redistribution, because like I was mentioning earlier, if you invalidate the value of labor, capitalism no longer works. So that's one option. The other option is they're like, we successfully regulate this. In which case, it's very difficult to say exactly how it would go. I'm not sure, because it would depend on the extent of regulation. It would also depend on the extent of like open source black market AI. Because if this was all contained to like OpenAI or something, or like a single entity that we could control, it would be much more easy to regulate. But thanks to people like Stability, who have released this into the wild, people have models like arguably less sophisticated models, but models nonetheless, like on their computer. And if we completely regulate this, there's going to be like people that just do it illegally. So it's going to
So are you pro regulation for AI?
I am.
To what degree?
It's hard to say exactly, but I don't think that the option of unchecked AI is acceptable. The precedent of being able to take other people's work and automate the learning process into commercializing it for yourself I think that it causes irreparable damage to how people value your work or other people's work. Uh, like if we take this to the nth degree, if we ever get to a point where it's just like, oh, um, like that restaurant looks really interesting. I'm just gonna go home and type in the restaurant's name and get it for free. Like we have like a fucking Star Trek replicator where you just go
Right.
home and make whatever food you want. Like all restaurants would become invalidated. Like why would I ever go buy food if I could just make whatever food I want at home? Or if I ever saw a movie, like a trailer, if the trailer for the new Spider-Man was coming out, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm just gonna go home and tell my model, I'm gonna like take the trailer, plug it into my at-home model, and it's gonna generate a movie that's cool. Like
I
I
think
don't
the
see I don't
issue
see where the boundaries are for why people would or would not consume other people's work.
the well that's the point though is that there's not. I think the issue and where regulation becomes an extremely difficult conversation to have
Mhm.
is that like when I see like Sam Altman, the OpenAI guy, go in front of like
Yeah,
Congress and talk about no, you should make it to where only my company can do AI. It's like, well, of course, like of course you're
yeah,
gonna say that. So it's like, it's
yeah,
a difficult question of like, okay, well then how? Because do you really want the government to have sole control over AI? Do you want it
yeah.
to be like a a thing? Do you really want it to be where it's like just this one company becomes the most powerful entity on the planet and has the most cutting edge technology all the time? I don't know that there's a really solid 100% good answer. Everything has negatives, no
Absolutely.
matter
Yeah,
what way you go.
when I say that I'm pro regulation, I'm not saying that it's a like binary decision that this is a good answer, this is a bad answer. I lean more towards regulation because I think that the alternative of unchecked AI is worse than the realities of the complicated nature of regulating it.
I think so, but also you brought up an interesting point as well of like the cat's out of the bag in a way.
Hmm.
The open source LLMs available. The only holdup with publicly available AI
Hmm.
is computing power. That's
Yep.
the number one. That's actually the only thing that's in the way is that we have models that
Mhm.
are available that are almost as good as GPT-4 that you could
Yep.
run on your computer if your computer was good enough, but nobody's computer is good enough, right? You know,
Yeah.
but like eventually, I mean, like what was it? Nvidia was it? They just had
Hmm.
like a major breakthrough with like quantizing their processors, and so it like
Hmm.
made them 4 to 5 times more capable at running language models.
Sure.
Just like overnight, like completely changed the game.
Sure.
Um, like we're stuff like that's gonna happen, and I just don't know that the cat will ever be put back in the bag, in terms of what's available out there. Like Stable Diffusion is already probably almost as powerful as Mid Journey.
Hmm.
One does some stuff better, one does the other stuff better.
Sure. Sure.
Um, it's very it's a complex issue, obviously. And that's
It
the same thing we
absolutely.
said last time when we talked about this. Is like there's
Y-
not always going to be an easy answer.
Yeah. I think that so much of this, so like the two primary prongs that I'm concerned with is how it affects the economy and how it affects human communication. Um, I believe that currently the value of art is in the communication. Of course, the quality and things like that. But that's more like being able to communicate what you want more effectively. Um, but I think that as time goes on and AI becomes more ubiquitous, I'm hoping at least that more people will become more attuned to the qualities of human made work. It's kind of like artisan food versus processed food. Like
Mm.
there's value in like cheap available food, but it lacks certain aspects of like a homemade meal. Um, and as time has gone on, there's like a premium on the homemade part, and people willingly pay the premium to have like locally grown, um, handmade food. And we might be entering a situation where that's the dynamic with art. You have like you have like mass produced decent quality art that you can consume for like pennies, or you can pay $200 for a handmade commission, which, you know, it might be inferior in quality in some ways, but it comes with the knowledge that this was made by another person and that you're having a conversation.
Yeah,
I,
for sure.
I sort of think that that's how some of the dynamic is now. Like lots of people scoff at the idea of paying an artist any more than like $50 for a commission, and then there's some people that will like, oh yeah, this commission is going to cost $800, no problem, and then they like, tip you $200 on top of it
For
because
sure.
I don't think those people that are willing to pay that kind of money, I don't think they're completely blind. They know that the commission they're going to get isn't perfect, but because the artists that they enjoy made it for them, that in and of itself has value, and I don't see that with AR.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. And that's something that has always been my talking point anytime anyone has asked me about AI art, has been like the human touch, the human element in of itself is value. And there will always be, no matter what, there will always be at least a sect of people that are like, I want something made by a human being. Um, and that I don't think that will ever go away, even if it's at the point where every mainstream movie is using AI to like do their computer animation and all that stuff, which we might end up there. That might be where we go. Marvel movies might become even more soulless than they already are. That's a different conversation though. But anyways, like we might get there, but there will always be at least a niche of people that are like, I want ethically sourced food and art.
Yeah, ethically sourced art, baby.
Yeah. I don't think that'll ever go away completely. It might shrink, but as the other options become available. I mean, if you go continuing with the processed food analogy, it's like a lot more processed food gets eaten than organic food. And so we'll probably have a similar situation with art eventually, but there's always those people that want that organic. The organic
Yeah.
chicken where you get a bone in it sometimes,
Mhm.
but it's fine. You
But
like it.
I mean, if we want to extend this analogy further, like one of the talking points that people always have about AI is like democratizing art and stuff like that. But if we really map it directly onto how people consume other works, if you flood a market with like acceptable quality but highly ubiquitous work, it like loses that value. And instead of democratizing it, you've essentially just created a new paradigm because more people that consume quote unquote cheaper food, like processed foods, are poorer. And like the people that can afford to eat homegrown, uh, personally cooked foods are the more wealthy. So then, like, what are you democratizing really?
Hmm.
I feel that in this case, um, like you may gain access to something that's new, but if if gaining access to the thing that you coveted radically alters its like societal value, then I'm not sure what exactly you're getting out of that if the point is you wanted to democratize things. You're just like shifting the goalpost, if anything.
I think the democratize art thing is one of the more disingenuous arguments for AI art.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
I
I
think
come to think of it, I don't think I've seen someone say that in a while, so it might have lost steam.
because it's like one of the things about it is that art is like democratized already. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you can learn how to draw. Like nobody's stopping you. So that's always
Well,
been one that's like really like it makes you roll your eyes.
I mean, that's why it does make me roll my eyes. But like lots of people come back with the idea of the whole, um, like the thing that's stopping me is my time. Like I don't have the time to sit down and learn drawing or things like that. And they come up with whatever excuse they want to come up with. But
That's why it's this. I think that's also why, and the prevalence of that argument early on is part of the reason for the just pure vitriol that artists have towards it. Obviously,
yeah,
that's not the only reason, but that's part of it is because it's like you hear that argument like, oh, I don't have time, and it's like everybody that has learned how to draw is sitting there like, neither did I. You know what I mean? Like I
yeah,
made the time.
yeah. That's definitely a big thing. Is the whole you have as much time as you want. You just it's not high enough on your priority list.
I think that's every creator's like most hated thing to hear is the like, and everyone's heard it like the, oh man, I would draw too if I just had the time, or oh, if I just had the
Yeah,
time, I would be as good as this. I think
yeah.
everyone's sick of hearing that.
I mean, I know for like since the end of time, creatives have always talked about how like, oh, yeah, the reason I have the time to do this is 'cause, like I do nothing else. Like I don't regularly go out to party with people. I don't uh I don't do a whole lot of other creative things. I like cut back on the time I can watch movies and play video games or whatever. It's
It's a
like, yeah, if you
sacrifice.
yeah, it's a sacrifice. If you want to do something that requires a lot of time investment, then you just have to like do less of other things. And I know that it sounds really good to have a technology that can just expedite the process. But every time I hear somebody say they want to do more in less time, I always imagine that they are going to be losing a lot of the process. Like what you get on the other end is not the same as if you spent the time.
Well, it's a big difference between and what I honestly one of the things that we always tell people when they ask us like learn about, oh, can I do this full time or whatever, and it's like when, just being honest, like you have to really really love this to do this full
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
because it's hard and you have to make a lot of sacrifices and stuff, and so like
mhm,
when that's minimized, I think that's one of the things that always gets artists really upset is like, because they always think about like all the sacrifices they made to get as good as they have, unless you're
mhm.
just like a freak who got really good
But especially
immediately.
because
So-
like one of the harshest things you typically like have to tell someone when someone asks you, it's like, would you be comfortable doing this every day if you were making no money off of it? Like,
Mhm,
because you're gonna be doing this for years, making no
mhm.
money off of it before you
Yeah,
start. If you do, making money off. That's why. So it's like, I think that notion that you can skip that. It's because one of those weird things. It sounds harsh to say. It sounds like you're like almost like gatekeeping it, but it's not really like
mhm.
gatekeeping anything but reality, I guess. Be,
Gatekeeping reality.
that's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
it's kind of just being like like
yeah,
you
yeah.
don't get here like no one gets there without that sacrifice, and it's not because of like, oh well, you have to suffer blah blah. It's more just like no one gets to that skill level that you see when you look at someone and they're a professional and you go, wow, that's
Mhm.
really amazing. They didn't get that amazing without taking out those parts of their life, without that
Yeah,
sacrifice. I mean, I'm not even saying Scott and I were amazing, but I was broke for like 4 years before I ever started
yeah, yeah,
earning money off my writing.
yeah,
Before Scott ever started really earning anything decent off his art. It's just, and I
yeah,
didn't have any friends in that time. I didn't really play the games I wanted to play in that time. Now I have
yeah.
more of an opportunity to do those things because of where I'm at, but I didn't for the longest time.
Mhm. I mean, there's certainly that side of things. Like, I would like to think that my objections to these things aren't out of pure spite. Or just like, oh, if I suffered, you have to suffer.
Hmm.
And maybe that's just me coping. But I feel that how would I say it? I feel that people, one, might not really understand why they want to do something. Like people that say like, "Oh, I wish I could learn how to draw." It's like, why do you wish that you could learn to draw? Is it because you saw how popular and how much praise this person got for learning to draw? Like, are you just doing it for the clout? Or is it because like you legitimately have creative ideas that you feel are trapped in your head and you don't have the hands to execute on them?
I learned
'Cause
how to draw so that I could draw Fiso. It's all been building to this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is
Jesus
that is what
Christ.
this is all. The last several years of my life has all been building up to that.
Yeah. And if you can honestly say that, then that's awesome. It's like how much of that is like survivorship bias or things like that. Um, but yeah, like for people that are fully embracing technology that can make previously difficult things easier, I have to question why they wanted to do it in the first place.
Yeah, no, that makes sense for sure. And like I said, it all goes back to what we were talking about. Like to do this really like full time, like you have to really love it. You know what I mean? You have to basically not have a choice. You want to do it so bad.
You have to, when people ask you that question of what do you want to do if it doesn't work out, you have to be like, there's no it not working out. That's what I used to always say.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's like, oh, if it doesn't work out, then I'll keep doing it until it does, or I die. So
Yeah, and so I see what you're saying with people that don't have that level of commitment. And also I understand what Bryce is saying. Like it does sometimes when you say stuff like that, it feels almost like you're gatekeeping. But
well,
it's like
it sounds like it for sure.
It's just
yeah,
being
but
honest, and people
I
are
completely-
afraid of kind of being honest about it. But I would
Yeah.
hate it's one of those kind of things of I never want to dissuade anyone from doing something creative, but the decision to go I want to do this for a living is a very big one, and it's either one of those you there is no I want to do this for a living and not going all in. It's you can't. And there's nothing wrong with like being a hobbyist or want to do anything for hobby. That's totally fine. I think that's great if people want to do that. But what I think it's one of those things of there is a harsh reality to coming with wanting to do it as a living. There is, I wake up at 5 a.m. most days and I write all day. And, that sounds really fun. But you don't always want to write all day. It's hard to strain that creative muscle to the point that it doesn't feel even creative sometimes because you're just doing it as your job. And it's what I want to do, but it's something you have to do. And you have to do that when you're broke, even when you're not making money off of it. And that's a lot harder to do than when you're making money off of it.
For sure. Well, in some ways, yes and no. I feel like sometimes when you become financially successful at something, there a new pressure arises where it's like, oh, okay, I can do this thing that I would be creatively fulfilling, or I can do this thing that I know will make me money. And you have to start juggling the whole idea of like, okay, do I do the thing that I don't necessarily want to do anymore, but will pay the bills, or do I jump off the cliff again and do the thing that's creatively fulfilling?
Yeah, the second jump off the cliff is the hard one. Because
like,
like the first one is like, oh yeah, I have to at least but the second one is like you're already like kind of doing what you want, just not exactly.
You quote unquote made it already, but now you have to make the choice again to like leave that behind, to take another risk to see if you want to do this new creative venture.
Because I guess because like the first time, like the first jump, right, is like for most people they're kind of broke at that point anyways, you know what I mean? And it's like, well, you don't have a whole lot to lose by going in on this, but like when you've quote unquote made it, it's like you have a lot more to sacrifice. You really have to test your mettle.
It can be, but I mean, I'm not saying that it isn't hard, Bryce. When you're fucking broke, I know that's like as well.
I think they're different kinds of hard is probably the better way to put it.
For sure. They're definitely not the same, but I think that it is a new challenge for people that have, quote unquote, made it. But yeah, I guess
Well,
those are
now
my
that we spent
general
an
thoughts on
hour
AI.
or an hour and 10 minutes talking about AI art,
Uh,
back to the topic everybody wants to know about, Ficel. Um,
Yeah, why did you do
okay.
what you did?
well, I thought it was funny.
Mhm.
Some people didn't get the joke. Actually, I think almost nobody got the joke, really.
Oh,
Because
really?
like, well, you have like one sect. It was like the criticism it got. There was a few different groups of people, but like the main one was just people saying that it sucked as a drawing.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, I was like, oh, this is a terrible drawing. You should have at least tried. And I'm
Mhm.
like, well, I mean, it was just supposed to be funny. Like, it wasn't actually like, you know,
I'm
supposed
surprised
to
at how
be.
much. I'm surprised how much fucking backlash I got. Well, then again, I'm
I
not. I'm not that surprised in today's internet. I feel like a lot of
Especially
things.
Dragon Ball fans.
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna be
Yeah.
like a funny little thing that I drew, and people were
Uh-huh.
like, "Oh, that's terrible," and I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, like it's supposed to be. It's funny. It's
Yeah.
not like obviously I fucking know that this is not the best thing that I've ever drawn in my life.
Sure.
But like some people don't get that. They're like, "Oh, this is clear. He's super proud of this. He's like, I'm gonna shit all over it." But then also like the other people didn't get it either because they were like, "The drawing's not that bad," and I'm like, "It was kind of bad." You know what I mean? But
Uh,
like it was supposed
it's.
to be.
I mean, it's fun. It's. I mean, it's not like
It's
the best. It's not the best picture in the world, but
it's
it's
fucking
not.
fee cell.
I don't think you were trying to make a masterpiece. It's sort of like a whatever. It's an idea that you just put
Exactly.
together.
Exactly. And that's what I think people have a hard time understanding. And you see that with a lot of stuff too. Like sometimes a musician will put out like a song and people will just shit all over it. And I'm like, could this person not have just been trying to have like a fun little time? Like does it have to be so serious? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um and I feel like I don't know. I mean, do you feel like it's getting more prevalent, people just feeling like they have a free pass to criticize artists online? Or do you think
I
this has just always been there?
I think it's always been there, but for whatever reason, maybe it's just my current algorithm. I've been noticing more of it. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't think this is new behavior. People have always felt the the idea is it's like, oh, you don't have to be an artist to be critical of it. Um, but for whatever reason, it certainly seems like there's more of it, or at the very least, it's more like
Brazen.
there's more vitriol.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's more, it's
Like,
much, there is no like, oh, this isn't that good. It's always like, this is awful. Like, you're a
yeah,
bad person for drawing this. Like, it's so extreme.
I wonder if that's just the like how communication has evolved. But maybe this is not specifically TikTok, but like newer generation social media is more like in your face, more uh more directly expressive and much more unfiltered. So maybe people have adopted that form of communication. And
Well, it's also yeah, because it's also like more exaggerate or hyperbolic, I guess
yeah,
is the word. It's like nothing's ever just like not that good. It's fucking
mhm,
trash.
yeah,
Um, and honestly, what was one of the weirder things was that the main person who is like shitting on the Ficel drawing was
yeah.
another artist, and I was
Yeah.
like, we're supposed to be on the same team here, you know, like you're supposed like I mean, come on, like I mean, it was a smaller artist, so it's like I mean, if I went and to your page and just shit all over one of your drawings, people would get mad at me,
For sure.
um, but because you can't punch down, but like it's
Uh-huh.
just like I don't know. I was so surprised seeing it be another artist that was like in on it. I'm like, don't you understand like how this isn't cool? You know?
I think that I mean that's also something that's been around for a while. There's just the whole matter of like there are certain artists that they don't necessarily have an like an even playing field vibe to them. Sort of like a you're winning or they're winning situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, and you know what else is funny about it too is that a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times when I get a negative comment,
Mm-hmm.
I'll respond to it, and 9 times out of 10, they either apologize or delete their comment. Now, I wasn't able to do that with all of the
I mean,
negative freestyle
you got a
comments.
lot.
Yeah, it was too many. It was too many. But like that's typically what I try and do.
Yeah, typically I do try to do the same, and yeah, I do notice that if you like personally acknowledge it, it'll kind of dissipate. Possibly because a lot of people that are making these comments on on Twitters or whatever are under the impression that this giant account will never see it, and then you know their their light jab that they quote retweeted got traction, and now everybody sees it.
That's another that's another thing too that's always been strange to me is like I don't know what it is. Like I can take criticism, right? Like I'm not somebody who's like completely not gonna not able to take any criticism at all. But like
Mm-hmm.
I always think it's like but like why? Like you know what really sucks is like us artists we're online like a lot. Like we for the most part we read all of the comments and stuff.
Oh
And so
yeah,
it's like
I believe I do.
yeah, like every single thing like we read. And so it's like sometimes people will say stuff and it's like, did you not think I would see this? You know? Or like why are you comfortable saying this to another human being?
Mm-hmm.
Or like even just like if it's not like a super negative thing or like mean, it's like being available and open for criticism all the time sucks. It sucks a lot. Like I said, I can take criticism, but if I want to be like, if I want criticized on something, if I want like be like, hey, like I might message one of my friends, I might message you, Otto, and be like, hey, what do you think of this drawing, or how can I do these colors better, or
Yeah.
something. You know, what do you think of my fee cell? Um, you know, like I would do something like that, but just like at random strangers at all time, just like open season on you. It's a
Yeah.
strange phenomenon. Like that's like imagine you're just sitting in your house and somebody walks up to you and is like, by the way, you fucking suck. You know? That's essentially in a nutshell what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. There seems to be like a lack of understanding of like etiquette.
I think
But
people also just feel very comfortable giving someone shit if they like are in like a big position. Like I said, maybe it's because they don't think the person will see it because they're like. But I think there's also almost this sense of like, like almost this feeling that it's just okay because they're a bigger artist or because
yeah.
there's somebody that does this. Like it's fine. Like it's I don't know. It's one thing like because I guess where I don't understand it is like when I was. Even when I was like, I guess you could say at my most vitriolic, when I wasn't making any money and I had been writing for years and I saw other people that were doing things that I wish I was doing, I never once felt like I was like, oh, I want to comment under this person's stuff and be like, you're awful, you're bad, this is bad. I just didn't do that. And I guess it's especially weird to me to do that, but then also to be as extreme as being like, delete your account. Literally kill yourself, like the things that Scott was being told. Like you said, it's I think the more upsetting thing about it isn't
you got kill
yeah
yourself?
he did.
Right. All right. Sorry, you continue. Right?
I think the more upsetting thing about it, and Scott's talked about this before, it isn't even like like one person being critiqued. Like Scott can take it. It's kind of just like I don't think it's good for that precedent as a whole. Like you had the person that did the like the female Miguel. She got a bunch of hate and stuff. Like I think people should just be able to make silly things and just have fun. And this is like a bigger topic, and of course you can't change like the general hive mind of how people act. People are gonna get mad at what they want to get mad at and blah blah. But it's upsetting that people can't that everything has to be like an opus or you're going to be torn apart for it. Because I think there's a very clear distinction between when someone puts something out and they go, this is me at my best. This is like Scott putting out Kindred Heavens and us working on this is very different than like a random Lucia drawing. And that's not, or like the Ficel. The Ficel's the better example. It's like something that he put his all into versus something he just made for fun. He was just trying to have a good time. And I think that it's unfair and it's a dangerous precedent to critique that, because at what point does that critique hit a smaller artist or hit somebody that's, coming up or can't handle critique very well? And it, I don't know. It's very frustrating because I would hate to see that part stripped away, or stripped down to somebody feeling they can only do that. That's the danger of feeling like somebody being like, I have to be like a meme account or I have to be a serious thing. I can't be both. I can't just make what I want to make.
I mean, from a cynical standpoint, I think that is a big part of it. Some people are looking to do something that catches attention, and negative attention is a lot easier to get. So it's really
Unfortunately, that's how algorithms are.
Yeah, so it's a lot easier for people to just lean into I'm being a dick. I'm just gonna fucking blow up on this person. And it's gonna be hilarious for the internet. Yeah, it sucks.
But the important thing is that Scott learned his lesson, and he's not going to do this again.
You're not gonna do it again?
I might. What he's referencing is there was somebody in the Discord server that came in like, it wasn't that bad, but I just hope Scott's learned his lesson. I was like,
it was really funny to me. I keep bringing it up, but it was funny to me.
See, now you have to do one where it's like incredibly like you spent way too much time drawing this himself.
Yeah, make a fully realistic, detailed Ficel. Go all in on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I was just so surprised. I was just like hanging out, and
then you're like, you blew up or something.
No, I was just like, because I have like notifications off for the most part. Like I don't really get, unless I'm following somebody, I don't get notifications.
Yeah.
So like I was just sitting there, and it was like after I had finished drawing for the day, I was watching a baseball game on TV, and then I was like, I'm gonna check and see how that Ficel's doing, and it was doing like pretty well for a post of mine, and I was like, okay, like we're doing all right. And then I saw that it had like 60 quote retweets in the first hour.
Yeah, that's not
and I was like, oh no. And then I started going through them, and I was like, Jesus Christ. And so I made that other post where I was just like, I compiled all of the negative comments. And to be honest, just because it was funny that people were that tilted about Ficel, and then they got even more tilted about that. They were like, oh, crybabies, tattling.
Of course they would get more tilted if you fucking called them out.
And then some people, and this is also where it gets strange, like some people, they were like celebrating. They were like, woo, we made it in the post. Yeah, like high-fiving. And I'm like, you told a person to kill themselves, and then you're celebrating, Yeah.
Well, that's where I think like there might just be like a cultural gap in how we communicate. Because I think some people like I don't know. It's like maybe it's like the Logan Paul crowd or something. Like you tell each other the worst shit, and you like legitimately punch each other in the face, and at the end you're like, that was sick. That was such a fun time.
Good prank, bro.
Yeah, good prank, bro. And like everybody, I don't want to say everybody, but a lot of people are in on it and thinking just like, oh yeah, no, we're gonna do the worst things imaginable to each other, and it's all just like we all just understand that we're just fucking around. And then, it goes too far, or you rope someone in who doesn't understand that it's a joke, and it becomes actually betrayalic.
There was one guy that went pretty hard at Scott. It was pretty funny. He was like, he was one of my favorite.
It was pretty funny.
He was like, not only is this one awful, every OC this man has designed is awful. This is a terrible account. He should delete his account or some shit like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was the person, one of the people I responded to that deleted their tweet.
Yeah. So then it's like, at a certain point, if you just go so over the top, it starts to be recognized like, oh, this person is serious. This is a joke. But then is it?
Oh God, this has turned into a stream where we all sound old. Like,
Well, I don't know about you, but I am fucking old. I can't keep up with the fucking Zoomers.
I think that the gap is more pronounced now than ever. Like, we're only like 25. He's about to be 26, but like
Let's go.
that feels like a large gap with the younger crowd today. You know,
Oh yeah.
you know what I mean though. Like,
I mean, so at 25 and 26, you guys feel old.
Yeah.
yeah, when I see some of the shit that I see online makes me like, yeah, I can't keep up with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know you're aged up. You're a higher level.
I'm a fucking dinosaur. But
But
I've embraced it.
but that's what I'm saying though, is like I feel like in the past, like 24, 25, not a big deal. You know what I mean? That's you're still hip. I don't think it's possible anymore. Like I'm not on TikTok. You know, like I think that's automatically disqualifies you if you're not on TikTok. You can't keep up with all this shit.
It just moves too fast. Like everything.
Yeah.
By the time I learn like a phrase or a joke or something, it's gone already. Like and that's like the oldest sentence I've ever said in my life. But it's true. Like I feel so behind everything. Like my niece will talk to me and she's like only 8, and I feel like she understands the world in that sense so much more than I do at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it's. You remember when all our parents were on Facebook, and they got memes like 6 months after they had died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's essentially where we are now.
And they've clung on to them, like they're still posting them. They're still like they've never let go of those original memes.
Yeah, I mean we're still Rickrolling people.
Yeah, Rickroll's immortal though.
It's the one that just works. It never stops.
My God,
there's nostalgia for being Rickrolled.
Yeah, it all moves real fast. That's why I have to just kind of do my own thing and hope people like it rather than being able to keep up on trends.
Well, quality stuff, quality humor, quality artwork, and anything just quality like that, it's gonna stick around. I think you're fine.
I mean, like when the whole Grimace Shake thing showed up,
yeah,
that was a very confusing.
I still feel lost on it.
I mean, I get it. Like once someone explained it to me, I'm like, oh, like explain the origin of it. I was like, okay, I get how we've arrived at this point.
I don't even think I know the origin of the Grimace Shake.
There was like some sort of official McDonald's ad campaign about the new Grimace Shake, and it was like it was kind of sinister. So people like took it to the extreme.
They just took it all the way.
Like, because they started off as like, oh, like what the fuck is this Grimace? Like, why is it so sinister? What's this Grimace Shake gonna do to me? So like somebody made the meme of like, oh, I drink it and like something terrible happens to me, and then the internet ran with it.
Classic internet.
Yeah, classic. It was confusing for me because the first one that I saw was like, it was just like someone exploded on the side of the street, and there was just like a purple splotch on the ground, and it's like postmodernist humor or something.
Yeah. It's like when all the memes were just one letter, like people would just post the letter E and like Markiplier's face.
Yeah.
It's weird because stuff like the Grimace Shake, I didn't know about it until it was everywhere. You know what I mean? It was like I'd never seen it, and then I opened Twitter one day and it was all I fucking saw. And that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, it like my Twitter feed was just suddenly like 80% Grimace Shake memes. But I think that's because we're on the old person app. Like if we were on TikTok, you would have seen it more naturally.
Never on TikTok.
Yeah.
That's a hill I will die on.
Yeah.
I'm also on that hill. I'm just not as vocal about it. It's more that I don't like that like brain dead. Just not saying it's all like bad content, but just like so much of it's just like flick through and it's just like a person dancing or something, and my brain just. I don't know. We have so much to do on this life, in this world.
Yeah, I mean, my like older sister is on there, and it's very much a curation thing. If you can curate your feed, to like not give you that shit, there's actually a lot of like cool things on TikTok. But you gotta
We're losing him, Bryce.
You got to do that curation.
No, I'm definitely sure there is. I think one problem with it is I also can see very clearly why it's so addictive to people. Like when I
Yeah.
see someone just scroll through and it's just like 3 seconds and like it's just like a quick like talking about a thing they like or they learn a new thing or I don't know. Like I get it, and I guess like for me, I don't ever want to get caught in it. I feel comfortable where I'm at right now.
Man,
Yeah.
I was out to eat with my family, and my little sister, who is 7, was scrolling through TikTok, and this was the closest exposure that I've ever gotten to TikTok. Man, just like brain rot. Like it was just like her scrolling through videos of like people being like it'd be like a thick Roblox character like flossing, you know?
Yeah.
Like just like random shit like that. I'm just like, wow, you know? I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Just like and like it's so fast, I guess. Like, you know, I saw her intake probably like 200 videos in the span of just a little bit, like,
Yeah.
you know, 30 minutes. And
I
it's
don't.
crazy. Like, how do you keep up with that?
I don't mind the speed. I just mind the gear shifting. Like if it was
Like, what do you mean?
like if it was multiple videos about like a similar topic and it was going from like one thing to another, then
Yeah.
I'm fine with the speed. But it's like
Super ADHD.
I don't know if it's completely um I don't know if what I saw was exactly what TikTok is, but I'm watching these videos and there's like a guy talking about how to like life hack something, and underneath him in the same video is like it's like somebody parkouring in Roblox, and it's like do you not have the attention span to listen to this guy talk about the life hack? You also need to be looking at Roblox parkour.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like you just like focus on the one thing that you're doing or something. But I don't know. I guess that's how people consume things now.
Do you think it is a symptom or a cause of the shortened attention spans nowadays?
I do not know. It could be both the chicken and the egg.
I think it's
Like
probably both.
It's sort of like a self-perpetuating thing.
Mm.
It's like an arms race. Like one person made it quicker because the attention span, or like there's too much stuff for people to see, so we have to make it faster, and we have to grab your attention quicker. And then somebody kept building on it over and over. I mean, it's not like outside of TikTok. Like, how do you feel about watching YouTube videos at like 1.5 speed?
I just don't understand it.
Uh,
Like, I mean, like, I guess it depends on the video. I could see that. Like, so like I know some people will listen to like audiobooks at 1.5 speed.
yeah.
And that makes sense to me. Like, I could see. I don't do it personally. It depends on the narrator. If it's a really bad narrator, I might. But
Yeah.
like I could see that. I could see reasoning for that. You know what I mean? Like you get through it quicker. Or if it's like a video, it's like that. But if it's just like a normal like 5-minute video, like why do you need to watch it on 1.5 speed? You know?
I mean, I feel that. So I understand why people do it, but I'm concerned about what it means. Because like people are under the impression that doing more things in less time is better, like always better. And I'm not always convinced that's true. Because I think that it, like sometimes you need to like give the things that you're doing the time it takes to do it.
Hmm.
And if in every part of our life we slowly encroach upon that idea that, oh no, this thing isn't that important to me, so I'm just going to spend no time on it, or like as little time on it as possible, so I can do the things that I want to do. It very quickly becomes, oh, the things that I want to do. Like there's too many things that I want to do, so I'm going to do all the things that I want to do in less time.
Right.
and then we get into the situation where we're on TikTok where we're doing 4 things at once in the span of like 10 seconds. And maybe it's because my fucking dinosaur brain is too slow, and like the new kids are like evolved and they can fucking jack into the system, and they can legitimately do all of this. I guess that's cool.
I don't think
But
they can. I think it's all very surface level.
That's where I'm getting. It's like I feel that if you just keep cramming more and more stuff into less and less time, you just have a less you have a more surface level experience with things.
I feel the same way. One of the things, and this is like an old man habit I have, I guess, but like
Yeah.
it drives me crazy when I'm having a conversation with somebody and
Yeah.
they're like texting in the middle of the conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm like, how are you listening to what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. I think that if you're having a conversation with somebody, you should pay them the like attention that this conversation.
And you know what? I will in those scenarios, I will ask somebody if they understood like what I was talking about, and nine times, like 9 times out of 10, they have no idea what I'm talking.
He's
about.
not even bullshitting.
Yeah.
I've seen him do this multiple times.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah, and I totally get it. It's sort of like why are we even having this conversation if you process nothing I've said? Yeah, I do think that it's fairly disrespectful to when talking to somebody just like completely just like, oh yeah, no, I'm more interested in this other thing that I'm doing right now.
It's a weird thing. Kids are always kind of like stir crazy and ADHD and like always like going all over the place. But I will say, talking to children in like the last 5 or so years is hell, because they all have phones or iPads now. Like I've tried to talk to my niece and I love her and she's great, but sometimes it's like you'll have a whole conversation, you're trying to talk about something serious, and she's a kid, so you give her like, the bit of a benefit of a doubt, but like, like it is frustrating when it feels like they could not be pulled away from what they're looking at to pay attention to you.
Yeah.
That's what scares the shit out of me, like the idea of becoming a parent in today's world. Like I don't even know. That seems like just such a terrible situation to be in.
I mean, so we have to be like self-aware, right? There's a certain amount of like kids these days that we're talking about. It's like,
definitely.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, the old people are going to like bitch about young people at some point, and like it's not a situation where I think the youth are doomed. Like, but I do think that like just like how we probably did it, we like overlook the value of some of the things that our elders did because like we're just like not old enough or we're not experienced enough to understand the value. Yeah.
Well,
go ahead, have your kids.
I feel sufficiently ancient from this conversation.
It's perfect timing because I'm turning 26 at the end of this week, just in time to get a little bit older.
Oh shit! Happy early birthday!
Thank you.
What are you gonna do?
Probably. I'm taking a vacation actually for the first time.
Oh.
I take a vacation every year for my birthday. By vacation, I just mean not working. I don't mean doing anything special.
You're gonna take a break.
Yeah. But to me, that's a vacation because I don't do that I'm taking 3 days off this week. So.
Sick.
I'm probably just gonna play Final Fantasy V the whole time, but
5.
That's because I'm playing. I've never played it. I've never actually played any of the Final Fantasies before 6, so 5 was the one I started.
There's a reason people don't talk about 5 much.
See, the reason I wanted to play it right is because I actually like I've recently gotten very into JRPGs. It's been like I spent my whole life kind of liking the style but hating the games. Because I grew up not liking turn-based combat, and then some switch flipped in my brain. I don't know how to describe it, and all of a sudden I started enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
And so
turn-based combat is great.
Yeah, I don't know. I hated it my whole life, and then it's literally like one day I woke up and I understood it. I don't know how to describe it other than that.
It's because you got old. It's because
that's exactly what I tell people. I'm like, I've gotten older, so my brain can I can sit and I can grind and I can enjoy things like that. Like I can actually calm myself down for a bit. And so I played Final Fantasy 7. That was the first Final Fantasy I ever beat. It was 7.
Oh dang! Yeah.
I've played 10 about like 5 different times and gotten like 40 hours in, but I've never finished it. So
Okay.
10 was technically the first I've ever played.
Gotcha.
And then I wanted to play like one of the older ones, and I really, really love job systems, and I really love any game that lets me fuck with classes. And everyone just kept telling me I have to play 5. They kept saying like the story's not what you're there for, but if you want to play with like the classes and mess with that, like 5 is like the best for that. So I'm gonna play that. Then I'm gonna play 6 because I know 6 is like out of the old like pre-7 ones, it's like the great one from what everyone's told me.
People definitely reference 6. If you're not talking 7, you're talking 6, right?
Yeah.
Or 9, I guess. A lot of people like 9 as well.
But yeah, so I have a goal of slowly playing through all of the Final Fantasies.
Gotcha.
To get myself.
If you like job systems, you should play Bravely Default.
Yeah, I've had that. The only thing that scared me off of that for so long is just hearing how traditional and old school it is. Because for the longest time I hated stuff like that. No, what I was gonna say, for the longest time I hated stuff like that. But now I'm like, okay, I can go play it. I've been playing a lot. I've been playing Final Fantasy. I've also been playing my way through all the Ys games. I fucking love the Ys games. And I've been championing them for a long time, even before this, because they're action RPGs. So I've liked them for a long time.
Yeah. I need to get around and finishing Ys 7.
Yeah, I've played 8, Origins, and Oath of Felghana. So
okay, which one was the one with Donna?
That's 8.
Looks like Lacrimosa Donna.
Yeah, it's 8.
Is that 8? Okay, then I need to finish that one.
8's very good.
I played like a good 10 hours of it, and then for whatever reason I did something else and I never picked it back up.
Yeah, I've been playing that. I don't know. So I've been just trying to play a bunch. I've had so many people recommend since I've started this. I've gotten so many recommendations of JRPGs. I have so many to play, and the problem is none of them are short. You know what I mean? Like,
oh no, this is the problem with JRPGs. Is they're like fucking time investments.
Somebody will be like, "Yeah, play this game. It's only 40 hours," and I'm like, "That's." And then people are like, "It's a short one." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I don't, you know, I know it is, but I'm like, that's still long to me."
It is long, but yeah, in the scope of things, that's a short one.
I definitely have experience in the genre. Like I've played like one of my favorite games of all time, and it is Dragon Quest VIII. Which I know is turn-based and is pretty standard turn-based, but I played that game as a kid, and I love being able to go to towns. That's like my thing. And Dragon Quest VIII is like, that's all it is. It's just going from town to town.
Because you're a writer, right?
Yeah, I don't know what I can take. You can fuck off in the story. I don't care if you just let me walk into town and make it feel like real, and let me like talk to people and interact with people. That's my shit. I don't know why. I love it.
Nice.
That's another reason I played 5 is because somebody told me there's like 28 towns in Final Fantasy 5, and I was like, God damn, I'm ready.
Yeah, when you started saying Final Fantasy, it's like, oh, you got like 15 or 16, but it's like, oh no, you're.
Well, actually, I was gonna like, I'm gonna play 6. I was actually really excited about 16, but I was like, I have all these other great games I haven't played that aren't $70 that I could play, and eventually. That goes like new thing. Oh, am I mic?
Okay, that's not me, right?
Am I good?
No, that's not you. That's Bryce.
Am I good now? Oh no.
They can. You know what's funny though is that the chat can still hear him because
no.
So they just hear us.
Am I back?
Being really. Oh yeah, there you are.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. I fixed it.
Sorry.
I don't even remember what I was saying.
You were talking about Final Fantasy 16.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to get rid of that part of my brain that goes like, "Oh, new thing. I have to play it right when it comes out."
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like I've done that too much in my life, and like there are just so many things that I own or that I do want to play that I just haven't.
Yeah. No, I get you.
And also with the Pixel remasters, it's like the perfect time to play the old Final Fantasies.
Yeah, go for it, man. I'm on the other end. I like literally just got. I went to Costco and I bought a PS5 yesterday.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I haven't. Too many PS5 games have been coming out. I'm just like, I want to play that, but I don't have a PS5, and the PC port sucks.
I didn't know they had PS5s at Costco.
Oh yeah, if you want to save like $70 on the bundle.
I've never been to a Costco.
You've never been to a Costco?
I've also never been to a Costco.
I don't think we have them here.
I don't know if we had them.
Oh my God! Wait. All right, fair enough. If you don't have it nearby, then you can't go to it.
Are they like?
We have Sam's Club, isn't that?
Yeah, I
like
was gonna say
thing?
they're like a membership type place, right?
Yeah. So the thing about Costco is they they sell themselves as like the everyman's warehouse, get a good deal place, but their primary clientele is rich people that want to feel like they're getting a deal
Hmm.
All
because
right.
they
All right.
sell like pretty good stuff. It's not like um they're not selling product that's like it's gonna go bad in a few days, so we have to like offload it or things like that. Um, they just make their store look like a cheap warehouse so that the people shopping there get the feeling that they're getting a great deal.
Gotcha.
Which, it's not that they're not getting a good deal, but much of the deal comes from buying in like huge volume. So like you can't just buy, like, if I wanted cheese, I can't just buy like enough cheese for the week. I have to buy like
That's kind
a
of how
month.
Sam's Club is, the bundle thing. Like you
Yeah,
go there to get a bunch of something.
yeah, yeah. And you like leave and you spend like $200, but you have like 2 months worth of food.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, yeah, yeah. In any case, they have a bundle for a PS5 there. It comes with another controller and God of War, and it's like $500.
It's not bad.
Actually, I bought. Speaking of buying games from an unorthodox place, I bought my Meta Quest from Best Buy. Was it? I think it was
Okay.
Best Buy.
That's not the most unconventional place though.
I mean, Best Buy
If-
is it's an electronics store.
Yeah, I was gonna
The
say.
only in my life, the only places I've ever bought anything video game related from are
Like GameStop.
GameStop, and then when I got older, it was Amazon,
Oh, gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah,
and
I
then
bought a
Best
fair
Buy
bit of
from my Meta
games
Quest.
off Best Buy. But that's because I like my physical games. And the problem with buying physical games, right, is that you just sometimes need to go to just like random places if you want certain things. Especially Best Buy carries a lot of limited run stuff, and every once in a while, I need it. I
Yeah.
have to have it.
I know that sometimes when I'm like, oh, I want this collector's edition or whatever, it's like, oh, I gotta go to Best Buy for that.
Nah, man.
You know-
When
you know-
digital games started to become like the norm, and you didn't have to have discs anymore, I was done with stores. I was like,
Nobody-
okay, I don't ever have to go to a store
There
again.
is almost no
Yeah.
one we have ever had on stream that has agreed with me about sometimes wanting physical of something. Auto, this makes me so happy. I get so much
Yeah,
shit
okay,
for
look.
this.
Look, wait. I buy like 90% digital out of convenience, but if I want like a collector's edition and stuff like that, they don't have digital collector's editions. I mean, they do, but those suck.
This is still a victory for me.
Okay.
I don't care if it's just 90% of the time you buy digital and 10% physical, I'll take it. Because I
No,
buy
look,
mostly physical. I try to, at least. I don't know why. I just like having physical games. For me, my brain has a hard time tangibly feeling like I'm getting something if I don't have a physical version of it. And I know that's a problem with me and something I should address. But I still like holding something in my hand.
I mean, I get the physical side of things because like you have it. If one day I like drop my Switch and like the SD card breaks, I just like lose all of that.
Hmm.
And I can re-download it right now. But if the eShop goes down, it's like yeah, I can just lose it forever.
I've definitely caught some shit from people, not for like modern games. For modern games, we don't care as much. But sometimes when I talk about older games, especially like I'll talk about like buying an N64 game or something, and people will be like, "You can play a better." I guess N64 is a bad example because emulation still kind of sucks for it. But like I'll talk about buying like an NES game, and people will be like, "Oh, you could just emulate it and get a better experience." And I'm like, I could do that, and people act like I don't recognize that I can't do that, or that I don't do that. Like people act like I because I buy physical, I've never played an emulator in my life.
Yeah.
Like I do, but I also just kind of like sometimes like sitting in front of my old TV and putting a cartridge in my old NES and playing a game that way.
Yeah, it's because you're a dinosaur.
Now the real problem with doing that kind of stuff now is that those games are expensive now.
Yeah.
Everything's falling apart now for me. Like I bought a copy of Paper Mario on the N64, and I'll admit this, I don't care. I spent like $70 on it, and that's a good price for it. That game goes for like $90 to $100 now. Like I got what most people would say is a steal, and like I know that's a lot of money, but I wanted it.
Yeah, no, I get it. There's this one time. Do you know what Mystical Ninja is?
I do.
Do you know the one on N64?
Yes, I do. That's actually the only. I know there's another one, but the only one I've ever like played is that one. I've not beaten it or anything, but I've emulated a little bit.
Okay, so there's that one. So I'm like, I want to like relive my childhood and play that game. So I like went on to eBay and I bought one for like $40 or something. Awesome. Did you know that there's a Mystical Ninja 2 on the N64?
No, I don't think I did. That doesn't
Like,
sound.
they made a sequel and it's like a side scroller.
No,
In any case, I was like, shit, that was a lot of fun. I want to play the next one. So I bought that one and that was like $60. When I could have just emulated all of it, but for whatever reason, I wanted the physical copy. I wanted to play with an N64 controller.
You're all alien to me. I'm not.
Sometimes
Not-
it pays
not in
off,
my
Scott.
book.
Sometimes you have a copy of Futurama on the PS2 that you've had since you were like 9 years old that you then sell for like $200. That happened to me. Did you guys know that Futurama for the PS2 sells for like $200? Because I learned that.
I can imagine.
It's just one of those games that just didn't sell well at all, and so it's rare now.
Yeah. But yeah, again, it's not like I do this with everything. Most of the games I play are digital. It's convenient to have everything on my Switch in one place. But I understand the appeal of physical as well.
I feel like for me it's a balancing act. Like I definitely like if I want to play, like I'm not gonna ever go spend like $200 for a physical game. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna be like, oh man, I really want this. I'm gonna spend two. Like I feel like I have like.
You don't want to be a collector and have like Xeno gears.
Yeah, I guess that's the difference with me is like there are some people that collect just to have a lot of things, or to have like a lot of rare things. I just want to own the things I like. So like sometimes like I'll be like, oh, I really like that game. I want to own a physical version of it, or I want to own this or that. I guess that's where it is. I used to when I was younger, when I first started like buying a lot of games. Like I would definitely buy games just because I'd be like, that's cheap. Oh, I can put it on my shelf. But as I've gotten older, as I become more of a dinosaur, I've started to be a little bit wiser with it and like only like be like, okay, I like this. I want this. Like I want a physical version of it. I actually almost bought a physical when they recently did a collector's edition of Ys 8 for PS5, but it was like $100. I almost bought it, but I was like, I bought this game once. I didn't do it. I'm not going to say whether I regret it or not.
I mean, I've bought games multiple times before. Not that big a deal.
I bought Grand Theft Auto a lot of times.
Just because like you wanted to play it, but you want it on like the new system.
Well, you know, they released first-person mode on the next-gen console, so I had to buy it.
I hear it's awful.
It's kind of a novelty.
It is pretty awful, but one thing that makes it so much worse is by default, view bobbing is on. If you turn view bobbing off, it's actually not that bad. But I mean, it's awful with that view bobbing on.
Yeah.
I just remember seeing that video of like first-person motorcycle, and it was not good.
Like, I wouldn't play the whole game like that.
Mm-hmm.
But for what it was, I mean, it's kind of like was it worth buying the whole game again for? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
But
someone said my oldest console is a Wii that I modded. I for a while, like I modded my Wii, and then there was this weird thing where like 2 or 3 people knew that I modded my Wii, and I became the guy. Like it was like a skill I had attained. They were like, "Can you mod my Wii?" As if like it was this complicated thing to do.
That's because it is complicated for people that don't know jack.
But these were people that did. Like these were people that like I felt like they could like. I mean, I don't know. All I did was watch a YouTube video that was like, "This is how you mod your Wii," and I was like, "Okay, cool."
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess if you have a friend that can do it and you don't want to learn to do it, just ask them to do it. Yeah.
I used to be big into that. I used to like that kind of stuff too. Like I used to be a big fan of like the hacking and modding consoles.
Modding.
Yeah. Not like any like not like actual like physical modding, but I really liked like I had this thing where I'd be like, if I can break this and put every game I could ever want on it, like I'm gonna do it just because I can.
Yeah.
Now the best console to do that with is a 3DS. Somebody just said what's easy to mod. 3DS. You mod a 3DS, that shit can play fucking anything you want. It can play DS games. It can play 3DS games. It's never been easier.
Yeah. The modded switches are pretty cool too.
I've not modded my Switch.
Yeah, I need to get around to mod my old Switch. One of the reasons I bought the OLED Switch was so that I would have a original Switch that I could mod, but I just never got around to it.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing. If I had another Switch for whatever reason, I would definitely mod one of them. But because I just have one, I don't really want to mod it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I have. I have one of the the Series S's, not the new Xbox, but the half new Xbox. I got for super cheap during some kind of deal. It was like $100.
Okay.
And it can run it can run PS2 emulators and GameCube emulators. It's not super easy, without even actually any modding. It's crazy. And so I just have that in my living room as an emulation box. It's crazy how good the PS2 game I think it can run everything up to Wii. So not like Xbox 360 and PS3, but Wii, GameCube, PS2.
Yeah.
It's pretty tight. I can't lie.
Cool.
I'm not what you would call a gamer.
I've got you playing Risk of Rain.
Yeah, I feel like what I do with a group of people doesn't count, though.
Why not?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's not like a game I would play by myself.
Okay, see.
It's just my whole life I've kind of been like that. I'll play just about anything with a group of people, just to hang out and have fit in. But by myself, I don't really. The only game I play is a baseball sim. I have that's the only thing that and chess, and then I have 300 hours into OTP this year.
So you're not a gamer.
I'm not a gamer.
He will play strategy games though. He does like Hearts of Iron. He loves Hearts of Iron.
I see.
I can't get him to play with me anymore, unfortunately. But
I feel like I maxed out my.
I can't believe this.
I got as good as I can get. I like games that are hard. That you like chess. I've been really into chess lately. I like games that I have to learn to play and put a lot of time into. I don't know. I'm just not much of a in my free time I don't sit down and go oh, I'm going to game, and I load up my PlayStation and do whatever. I just not me, man. Never really been like that. The last game that I beat and actually finished was Grand Theft Auto 5 in 2013.
Okay. Oh. Well, I mean, if it doesn't do it for you, don't do it.
I play enough games for the both of us.
This is true.
Well, yeah. That worked.
I've never owned a 3DS, but I want one specifically for the 3DS Kirby games. Robobobot is very, very good. I'm assuming that there's also Triple Deluxe, but if you're talking about 3DS, you're talking about Robobobot, I assume.
I mean, it's probably pretty easy to source one.
They're actually getting pretty expensive right now. In the wake of the eShop closing and everything, it ruined all the price. It was a bunch of people were rushing to buy them and everything.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I do know Japanese ones are still really cheap, and if you mod it, you can play American games, so it's not that big of a deal.
There you go.
But I do know Japanese ones are pretty cheap.
Okay. Yeah, go pick one up.
The 3DS I have the Super Nintendo 3DS, and I got it as a gift one year from someone. Little did I know that would go on to become one of the really expensive ones. There was a while where it was going for $400 or $500.
Damn.
I don't know if it still is. I just got really lucky because it was the one I really wanted because I thought it looked really cool. There's that one, and I really want. There's this Dragon Quest 3DS with a metal slime on it. There's a Japanese only one that I've wanted for a long time, and I've just never. I already own a 3DS, so I have no reason to buy it. But one day I will buy it.
What do you mean you have no reason to buy it? It has a slime on it.
See, my guy, he gets it.
Terrible. All of you terrible.
Yeah, man. That's consumerism, maybe.
Just something about it makes my brain happy. You know, I bought that Zelda Game & Watch. Never once played that thing, but it sits on my shelf looking real pretty.
Yeah, man. I feel like there's a certain amount of like collector going on in there.
There is a little bit of me that is just that collector, and sometimes the problem is that like my brain definitely has that like if there's something I like you can really hurt me with like Zelda. Like I really love Zelda, so it's like.
Yeah.
It can really hurt me if they just release like that fucking the Game & Watch. It was so stupid. Like there was no. I'm never gonna play Link's Awakening on my Game & Watch, but I had to have it when I saw it.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, like they released the Mario one. I didn't buy that one because I don't care that much about it.
I mean, I kind of get it. It's sort of like whenever I see a fucking anime figure, I'm like, that looks really cool. I'm gonna spend $2 on this piece of resin that's shaped like the girl I really like.
I understand that. Everyone should do that. If there's one that they really like, everyone should.
Yeah.
Everyone should fork over, especially to independent creators. That's something that everyone should be ready and willing to do if the situation ever called for it. Not saying that it will, but I'm just saying if it ever were, that should be something that everyone should be ready to do.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I know that I definitely want to have my own figure at one point. Be sick.
That would be cool if that ever were to happen.
Like, yeah, maybe one day that could happen.
Maybe one day, and if it did, I would hope that everyone here would support. Don't read any. I don't know what subtext is. What are you laughing at?
When's it releasing? You gotta give it a drop date.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I see. Just know that whatever you make is going straight in the jar.
No, not again.
I didn't understand that meme for the longest time.
Neither did we until someone came on stream and just very bluntly told us what it meant.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that was the first plush campaign. We learned.
Yeah, the internet is a dark place.
True. There has never been a more true sentence.
But to be fair, I think that's kind of why I like it. If it wasn't dark and weird and just kind of messed up sometimes, I think I'd be on it a lot less.
Sometimes. There's a limit. There's
a limit.
Honestly, I wish, and this goes back to being kind of crotchety and old, but if I could have a flip phone, I would.
Oh my god.
You know those people that like instead of having a smartphone.
Yeah.
But I kind of can't. For like in case something happens, I got to be on Twitter. I got to be there. It's my job.
In case he gets canceled for drawing Fiso. He needs to know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to miss anything. But if that wasn't true, I'd have a flip phone.
I mean, what are you missing that you can't do on like your computer?
It's not just about. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I get on Twitter, just like having to respond to stuff or keep checking on things.
You're also missing the real thing is that he wants to do this, but he doesn't actually want to do this.
I do want to, though. I would legitimately do this.
He would not.
It's just I would be missing out on. It's too convenient having like a smartphone doing like the whole social media thing. Like I actually, like certain websites, like I can't even post on online, like Instagram or Threads. We haven't even talked about Threads yet. Like you actually can't even post on without a phone.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's some things for it, but like if for your like daily driver phone, like you could have a smartphone at home just so that you can like use Threads or whatever the hell requires a phone. But then for your day to day, like when you go out, you can just have a flip phone.
You think I go out way more than I do?
See that? But see, here's the issue. Why do you want a flip phone? Why would you want one in the first place?
It's just having this thing in my pocket all the time is just like a terrible thing. I having unfettered access to social media is like toxic.
Yeah, that's why some people just don't have it on their phone. They have it on their computer only, right? And they never install the app on their phone.
No, see, I don't have the self control for that. But see, that also is like I have to have that stuff on my phone. You know what I mean? For responding to stuff. Like if somebody, like I get fan art or something on Twitter, like I want to be there to retweet it. I want, or like interact with it and like see that stuff. Like it's there's a tangible benefit for me having that access, which is good. It's just, for mental health wise.
Well, I mean, it's a
Not
double-edged sword, right?
yeah.
It's like you're always on, but you're also always on.
Oh well, maybe in another life. Or maybe if I just become like filthy stinking rich.
No, this is where you get someone else to do your social media for you.
Man, I would love that, but that sounds expensive.
I'm honestly surprised he hasn't asked me yet, because I do all of our work stuff outside of art. I'm waiting for the call.
Yeah, why don't you?
Well, he's just so bad with his own Twitter that I
Oh, I see.
What does that even mean? I just don't use it.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
Terrible.
Fine, you won't have to use it. We're all moving to Threads.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm trying to get banned.
Yeah, I saw. You're like, like it's one thing if you're posting like some butts or something like that, but you have the full titty drop.
Well, my thought process is that if I get banned for posting something like that, I'd rather it be early. And I think that if I did get banned, I could get my small following back relatively quickly because I've not had it very long. So I'm trying to find out where the limit is, right? Like we know hard porn is out.
Yeah.
But it actually seems to be more forgiving than Instagram. A little bit.
It might be. It might also just be that they are new, so they're not like enforcing things as heavily right now.
Maybe, but all that stuff's automated anyways.
It is. I got banned off of Instagram before.
So did I. Actually, they have me limited to where I can't. If you don't follow my account, you can't see any of my posts. Is where I'm currently at on Instagram. So I was really worried that since it's connected to Instagram, like you can carry your followers over and stuff. I was really worried that ban was going to carry over too, but I don't think it has. Somebody go check my Threads account that doesn't follow me and see if you can see my stuff. I actually don't know for sure if it has or not.
I mean, I could see your stuff before when I first came across you.
Okay, well then great.
Yeah,
but yeah, that so I mean, the fact that hasn't happened yet hopefully means there's some. I got the post I got banned for on Instagram, like because it was what happened was I got flagged for something. And I was like, it was like, hey, we're not going to show this. And I didn't think it was all that bad. So I was like, well, looking at it now, maybe it is. But I was like, well, review this. I don't think it's all that bad. And they reviewed it and they confirmed that it was no good. And they gave me the ban because I asked them to review it. It was this one. But oh yeah, I remember what it was. It was because of the caption. It was because of this. It wasn't even the titties. Because they said I was a potentially harmful account or threatening, inciting violence.
Oh boy.
So, I remember now.
Yeah. I never found out why they banned me. It was something about community guidelines, but they never actually specified. It was also.
So you're not on Instagram.
No, I had to make a new one.
I see.
So I technically have an Instagram now, but I made it specifically so that I can make a Threads account. I think I have like 6 followers on Instagram right now because whatever happened, they followed me. But I've never told anyone that I have one or a new one.
People will find you, dude. All right, before we had like I have a YouTube account that's old that I've not posted on anything, and all the videos are private. And it just has like my name, so people follow the account. And I'm like, how did you find this? Did you just search for me on YouTube?
Yeah, possibly. I'm pretty sure the people that follow me on Instagram right now are just like randos.
You got the bots following you on Instagram?
Something like that. I have no faith that the people that follow me on there actually know who I am or followed me there because of what I do.
Do you post?
I posted one picture there.
I see.
Actually, let me double check. Let's see.
Question: what does the incinerator command do? It does nothing. It just burns your points. It was just because we got sick of people asking for channel point rewards.
The incinerator.
Yeah, it just incinerates your channel points.
So if you
Nice.
just want to throw some out,
If you have channel points, burn them.
Beautiful. Oh shit! I have 19 followers on Instagram now.
Oh shit, dude.
Fuck.
I'll pose you one last question, and this will be our final topic for stream.
Right.
Then we'll let you go. What do you think about Threads so far?
Aside from the part that it's Facebook and it's Meta and all that shit, I
Yeah.
actually kind of like it. Like,
Go on.
it's not finished. Like, clearly, there's a bunch of quality of life stuff that could be put in. They could, they could put like a media tab, or they could put like a see only your follow, like who you follow, instead of whatever the fuck their home tab is like. But I enjoy that when I post pictures, it doesn't fuck with my images. It like posts it in whatever resolution it is, and then also the way that you can scroll through different images rather than it like boxing it into the 2x2 like Twitter. I enjoy that. Like, this is temporary, but I enjoy that there isn't a massive swarm of bots.
Oh, they'll come.
Yeah, they'll come. I'm aware that this is a temporary thing, but currently, I get to enjoy social media without a swarm of bots or like crypto bros trying to shove their new fucking whatever coin down my throat.
Dogecoin.
Yeah. But yeah, so aside from little things, I enjoy it for now. Hopefully, it turns into something good rather than not good. What about you? How do you feel?
I've honestly, well, here's the thing, like I've not used it from a user point of view, but I also don't use any social media aside from Reddit sometimes from a user point of view. From the posting point of view, it seems fine. Actually, I would say that and this is probably just because it's new and people are excited to interact with the new thing. But like it seems like the user base there is a little more engaged. I would say I don't know if that will last because like I said, that might just be because it's new. But that's good for artists. I mean, as soon as it was announced, I was like, well, I'm making one just because I have all the social medias that I post on. I post on Instagram, Newgrounds, fucking the Steak and Shake app. I mean, I'm everywhere, right? Like, but
I mean, at the very least, it behooves us to make the account so we can like sit on our name and shit.
Yeah. So I mean, I knew I was making one, and I didn't really know what to expect. So I guess I had zero expectations going in, but it's not bad. I guess I would recommend, if you're an artist, make one.
As long as they don't like seriously fuck it up, the bones on it are pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that it's fucking the Zuck doesn't fuck it up. I'm more confident that he won't fuck it up the way that Musk has fucked it up. But
that's also all happened since the last time you were on stream. Fucking Musk owning Twitter.
Yeah.
Has gone worse than I ever fucking imagined.
He's fucking He trashed this shit so fast. I don't understand this.
Like I was one of the people when he took it over. I was like, well, he's got some good ideas. Like he took over. He was like, oh yeah, creator monetization and stuff. I was like, well, let's give him a chance. Maybe it won't be so bad. And oh boy,
Yeah, no,
oh boy, it's been fucking awful.
he's super fucked it up. It's God damn it.
Yeah. I mean, this is also, we talk about this sometimes, but like people will be like, oh, or I get like sometimes we'll talk about how there's not a whole lot of job security when you're an artist.
Yeah.
And it's because like shit like that, like
Yeah.
if you like, it's just so everything's so fragile. We're all just hoping that no maniac buys the website that we depend on and ruins it. Although, it happened. So,
Yeah.
you
That's
just
why.
never know.
I mean, I think that yes and no, because I think that the fragility of our system is not only artists. I think like in today's day and age, every job has some sort of like everything could just fall out from under you tomorrow. So you have to have like contingency plans for everything.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, I mean specifically from the artist standpoint, we we essentially live on like the attention economy, and attention is off social media. So all of our livelihoods are tied to these fucking billionaires who own these platforms that we rely on.
Yeah, that's also why. I mean, it's better Twitter than Patreon, I guess, but
True.
Twitter is like the main. It's the best place for artists to post for reach and engagement and all that stuff. So
I mean, I
it's a
know
big.
everybody's always just like, "Oh, you should make a Mastodon." I'm like, how many fucking people use Mastodon? It doesn't
Like
matter
12.
if it doesn't matter if I like to use Mastodon. It matters that other people like to use Mastodon.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming, Otto. Would you like to plug anything before we go?
You can follow me on Twitter, the fucking sinking ship.
You can follow him on Twitter for now.
Yeah.
I'll drop a link to your Twitter.
You can
Auto.
follow Red. Fuck, I gotta like rebuild my audience. I don't even have an Instagram audience to jump off of for Threads. I gotta start from zero again. But yeah, standard artist shit. Watch me on Twitch. Sub to my Patreon. Follow me on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
Goat.
It's always great to talk.
Good stream. Thanks for coming.
And you know what? We made it the whole stream without talking about an MMO, Auto. Every time we've been on stream,
well, you talked about RPGs instead.
That is fair, but it's a different conversation still. So I think we did it.
My mod has gotten me to start an old school RuneScape.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
We're sorry.
I told him, I'm just like, look, I will join this group, but there's zero promise that I'll be able to keep up with you guys.
Well, have you kept up?
I mean, I've gone through Tutorial Island, and that's it.
I see. All right. Well, we're rating some. No, sorry.
I've never played RuneScape in my life, so.
I think I did when I was like, when it was very new, and
I had a problem at one point,
newish.
but I'm good now. I'm free.
There's an appeal to it that I understand.
I just kept shooting things with my bow and arrow, and it didn't go well. But that's been like 10 or 15 years ago. Anyways, we're raiding somebody. Be nice to who we raid. Tell them we sent you. Go follow Otto. Buy Kindred Heavens. Buy the Candy Bear. Support the Patreon. Subscribe on Twitch. Give us all of it. Give it all to us.
All the money.
And Otto.
Hell yeah.